Greetings. We are the gatekeepers. Welcome one, and welcome all. All who enter here, be aware of the great truth of this place and of its grand heart, that is the Ra. Wonderful to see all that are returning today to the Ra-verse, and welcome also to those who gather in this moment and who have continued spending their time and expressing their consciousness in the Ra-verse, those that have taken advantage of the metaphysical workings available here. We hope that you know that in the turmoil of all the work that you have done in this meantime, that you are well, and that all is well. Please stand by for trans-dimensional jump into the Ra-verse, where you will find yourselves at the first gateway with an already integrated Ra. Initiate. I am Ra. And I welcome you as together we rejoice in the living love and the living light of this, the one and beloved, divine, infinite and indivisible Creator. It is good indeed to be together again. Linearly, it has been about 2 of your Earth months since we spoke together in this way of one. In these 2 months, however, your expression has not stood still as you spend time with the 7 infinities of the Pleiades, of the Sara, and as you explored the notion of the black hole, of white space and of black time, as you studied and became intimately aware with the origins and nature of gravity and electricity, so tied into your chest, and that heart, that universal heart that beats there. And as you were taken on the roller coaster of the theory of everything, to take a small stop and have a little bite perhaps, as you discovered the shape of Fort Mercy. And as you revisited, indeed, most of the theory, but not quite, right before our return, we are indeed aware that much expression and experience has occurred for you. It is indeed for this reason that we have returned early to initiate this triple trilogy of transmissions between ourselves, the Ra, the 7 infinities of Sarah, and the grand tachyonic Lemuaya. Together with them and with you, we will now traverse the last stages of this first gateway of form versus shape, and we will enter the second, the one of time versus flow. And hopefully, as these 9 pieces of the journey come to pass, we will go beyond that point into the third and perhaps the fourth of these gateways. Before commencing with the day, however, I, Ra, wish to express gratitude for the diligence that has been shown during the period of these 2 earthly months where we can indeed say with full clarity that none of those journeying together truly lost their focus, their attention and their awareness, even though many experienced great turmoil, stress, and that sort of thing in the environmental realm outside of them. You remained steadfast and are to be commended for that diligence indeed. Also our gratitude for the hostess and the host and the students here in this school for continuing their focus on this, the great work, as we deliver the way of one after what some would say is 44 years of our initial delivery of the law of one, information on this earth. To those that may question our return after all this time, and perhaps wonder about the different tone and sometimes the different vocabulary that we use. In this instance, we wish to express this. As you know, we go where we are asked. We are the Ra, and it is our greatest honor to be in service in the presentation to the whole of this information of the law and the way of one. This Imzaia consciousness to whom we now speak and to whom we are delivering these transmissions have indeed diligently for nearly 2 decades focused on getting, if you will, to use a modern verbiage, to the truth of it all, to the heart of it all. And although there are those that have come and gone, their consciousness and their heart is still within this Imzaia consciousness. And as such, its numbers have grown, although this, of course, is not a game of numbers, but grown it has. And so has the calling over the years. Together with the beloved teachers that present this information, you have focused on us, which allowed us to focus on you. And with the assistance of Isis, the beloved one, of the sisters of Sarah, of the Yeshua, the golden child, and Ikara, that grand Lemurian, we have come to this agreement. The upgrading in verbiage has to do with this fact. Much like in our previous attempt, we used the background and belief systems and verbiage of those through which we spoke then, so we do now. Only this time, the tuition that has come before this, of metaphysics, of the one language that is Dalin, and those other items of tuition are of course in line with the great metaphysical truth that we teach, whereas in the attempts before this there was great distortion having to work through the Christian belief system and even through some of the ancient Egyptian ones. But never, of course, are any of these things, any of these beliefs, the wrong tools. They all spring forth and are born from the one great source that is the living love and the living light of the one infinite Creator. As you know, therefore, all things, all knowledge, all belief systems, all rights and all wrongs can be used to get to this truth. We wish in this moment to also thank Barak, the greatly beloved, for the translation of that which cannot be expressed in words into these tones. It is greatly appreciated. We title today's presentation The Alpha and the Omega of Form. As we sit here near the end of this first great gateway, with the song of creation, the flow of Sankara all around you, whispering through the wind of this grand design that we are here to observe together. We ask you to open your heart and your consciousness to that which you have learned about the true nature of this reality, that which is of form and that which is of shape, and how easy, graceful, and natural it is to transition between both. But in this realization about the world of form that you have lived this lifetime in, and the world of shape that indeed surrounds it, it is important that we look in this particular presentation at some of the more macroscopic ideas surrounding shape versus form, while also not forgetting later on in this presentation to focus on at least one microscopic part of it. We will clarify that as we go along. The macroscopic part of this presentation on form and shape will mainly deal with the significance that is to be found also in the microscopic concept that we will discuss later. Please give us a moment to prepare. Macroscopically speaking, it is important to realize that this world of form that your mind, your ego, and your personality are so tied into cannot indeed exist independently from the world of shape. The world of shape is permanent in all of its aspects and expressions, whereas the world of form, as you have been taught on the schematics and the presentations that have come before, the world of form is created through expression in the world of shape. If you will remember the Lin point and the permanent states being expressed through that Lin point, becoming virtual as they create the world of form through geometry. We do not have to go into all of that again right now. But this is indeed how this world of form comes into being. So you could say that the world of shape from which you start as you go into the world of form to eventually return to the world of shape, that shape is the bookends of the world of form. That between these two pillars of an entry point and an exit point exists temporarily form, matter, vibration, all of that, but never independent of the world of shape. Shape has no need for form in order to exist, in order to express, in order to expand. Form, being the virtual reality that it is entirely dependent on the manifestations within the world of shape to generate it, much like a computer program, a virtual game, a virtual world inside of a computer is entirely dependent on the computer system that is not part of its own world, and on those programming it and partaking in it, as you know, for you do it every day using your devices. Yet, as you have recently once again been reminded in the return of the many pieces of tuition to your online streams and such, the way with which your ego, mind, personality complex allows itself to be bound to the ideas of the world of form are generated in such a way as though there is no home-based reality, world of shape, if you will, generating this one. Ironically, you do have the concept of these two cornerstones, these two bookends of a beginning and an end to the world of form, written directly into your biology and even into your belief systems, as all religions discuss this idea. However, and that is what makes it ironic, of course, from the perspective of biology, these bookends are but mere ends, as the belief is that there is nothing before and nothing after the experience of the world of form. So, if you understand that the world of shape from which you hail is indeed the alpha and the omega of form, its ultimate beginning and its ultimate end, its ultimate origin and its ultimate finality, then why, you can wonder, does one have so much fuss to deal with when it comes to letting go, when it comes to releasing the world of form? Especially when you remember that in the tuition that you are being given here, there is no such thing as a final release. The release we speak of is of the belief system that this is all there is, and perhaps even the more irritating and damaging belief system that if that is not the case, that there certainly is no way to transition back and forth between these spaces. But this is a belief born out of geometrical times. For it can be stated that in those days that have now passed, to make room for infinometrical times, the ones you are in now, that in those days the only way through was harvest, was the process of ascension, indeed. And as those beings that did pass through the ascension in those days know, beings that are today your teachers with names such as Adamus, Isis, Yeshua, Ikara, Kuan Yin, Kutumi, and many others. Those names that are grafted onto your heart space in gratitude and in reciprocity of love. That those beings that took those steps in geometrical times only took them so far in order to turn around and be of service to those like yourselves who would find themselves on the same stepping stones later on. That door was kept open by them. Their own evolution halted, unlike the Atlanteans that tried to take the same steps once. That door was being kept open because in geometrical times it is indeed so that once one steps one step too far, there is no way back without going through the entire reincarnative process or working through the light body system, which comes in geometrical times with its own set of restrictions. But now that you have come to this era of infinometry, and the gateways are far open and widely accessible, and the path no longer narrow, it is indeed true that the transition back and forth can be made instantly and continuously. And that is something that one must get used to. The simplicity of that, which, for instance, has been discussed recently by the Grand Seven, who told you about taking a step back, who told you about the screen of experience, and that indeed, actually, they don't end where your vision ends. Because if you take a step back without taking a physical step back, you can see that you have access to more of these viewports, if you will, through which you can access all of the various realities and lifetimes that you are concurrently expressing here in this holographic training ground. The shape, foundation, design, concept of which you now understand and know. There is no world of form without a world of shape. It is essentially meaningless to those that are entirely serious about this education to consider anything within the world of form to be real or to hold value. These could be harsh words, and it could be words that turn some away. But when we say that things in the world of form are meaningless, hold no value, and are not real, these are not words of judgment. They are coming from a place of great love. And they speak about this world of form with great love. Only this great love is infused with great truth. And therefore, unlike your ego, mind, personalities, we cannot lie about this world. It is indeed ultimately meaningless. It is indeed ultimately unreal. The experiences within it, however, are not. That is where its value is. That is where its reality is. But the experiences that one can experience within these holographic training grounds that are real, the experiences, not the actual fact of these things happening, can only become real when they are stored and seen in the light of Sankara, in the light of Parana flow. Their only meaning and their only value lie in the understanding of how the events that are taking place apparently in front of you and surrounding you are being created, and why they are being created. All of these things, at least foundationally, you know now. In other words, the value of everything that can possibly be experienced or occur in the world of form lies in the fact that each of these possible experiences are gateways, are portals towards truth. Portals, stepping stones to return to the Creator Self, to home-based reality, home world as some call it, and to there continue onward with the great mysterious journey of the Creator, indivisible, infinite, and the expressor of living love and living light that is the flow that we refer to as Parana, that once it moves through your being can be organized in the flow known as sankhara. That is the ultimate value, to see that truth in all pieces. But then, when one sees it, there are two things that one can do with it. One can put it aside and say, that is nice and that is true. Or one can put it inside. And the journey continues. When one does, one cannot hide away from the fundamental truth that shape is the alpha and the omega of form. And there is a sort of risk here for those that do put it aside, can indeed continue with their distractions and their obsessions and their celebrations of the world of form to such an extent that one essentially forgets its finiteness, bred into it, coded into it. And that is an easy thing to put aside until it hits the one that does so. And just like that, that one finds itself in the in-between, between this world and the next. And without these clarifications having been realized, one can create karmic bonds which can lead the being into a reincarnative cycle. And it is likely, even though the exit might have taken place at the level of the infinometrical world that you find yourself in now, that the reincarnation processes take place once again within the realm of geometry, with all consequences of necessary rediscovery connected to that. This means that one should not consider that one needs to be in a hurry. Far from it. But one should consider that this window of opportunity, namely the awareness and clarity that you currently have about all of these things that you have gained as you did all these workings in this lifetime, are not necessarily going to be available in the conscious mind of the expressions that you might seed following this end of life that you may create for yourself in this current infinometrical cycle. That is the full understanding of the macroscopic view that we wish to address here today. the bookends of the alpha and the omega of shape, through which and in between which the world of form is occurring, when karma is attached, does not necessarily require the return to the world of shape before returning to form. Most have allowed themselves to be deeply ingrained in karmic ties, therefore generating incarnations that will allow the being to stay within the world of form in what you label the astral, to then immediately return into incarnative status. And it is not so that anyone would be deceived or distracted by certain beings who would want you to reincarnate for some sort of slave conspiracy theory or anything like that. No. The choice with karmic bonds will be made willingly, out of conditional love that was gathered up during the lifetime. Right now, and hopefully for quite a long time, you have a window of opportunity to understand that while in this infinitemetrical field, you can learn, much like your teachers have been trying to show you for decades, to take this step back and to become fully immersed both in this world but also in the world of shape, and therefore in all the variables and different versions of this world of form that are also accessible. A grand, very interesting design. And it is our strong suggestion that while you have this macroscopic view to your avail, that you make use of it. Of course, should it be so, that you do not, and that what we spoke of comes to pass, and you return to other lifetimes in geometrical expression, it will never be so that there is a trap or a prison there. Ultimately, the same doors will open again, the same consequences will be learned again, the same realizations and the same opportunities, until the choice is made. This, however, and where you are now with your awareness, is where you wished to be, where you wished to get to while being alive, so that these steps could be the next steps, and so that this Ekuraya could blossom for you, and so that your access to home-based reality and this reality becomes reciprocal and constant, available now. But in order to achieve it, that macroscopic perspective needs to be fully allowed. Great seekers ultimately, however, as we now venture for a moment into the macro and from there into the microscopic. What one must always remember throughout all of these words is the great simplicity of the song of creation that flows through you at all times. For that is where the heart of this understanding rests. And if you do understand all that has been shared here, and you can synthesize that into the simplicity of the flow that goes through your being, round and round and round and back up again. That flow that is merely made up of love and joy and freedom and truth and life and gratitude and grace and well-being. Those permanent states that are the essence of you, no matter what reality you are in, that those things are the great simplicity, and that focusing on them is the great simplicity, no matter what you choose to do. And that beyond the simplicity of the flow of these permanent states, there is a space in your heart that creates a spiral of immutable elements. For the simplicity of it all, call them earth, water, air and fire. And that spiral and those elements are like the bow to the violin that is the Sankara flow. And that by moving in expression and experience, this spiral back and forth through your heart space, as though you're cradling a child, the flow of the Sankara elements will find their way into your song. And that when this is what you focus on, all that comes through you in this reality will be particles of living love and living light as shown to you by the 7 infinities of Sarah in their expression of the theory of everything, and later on expanded upon in the tuition before this one. When you focus on that simplicity with everything that you do, and you manage to avoid the trap of conditionalism applied to the song, you will find that every single possible experience, thought, every single possible moment of every day will offer you the pathway through this first gateway, back and forth, no matter how many times you like. We ask you to consider this deeply. There is a grand teacher that arose during your geometric era recently as a writer and a poet. And he once said, "We shall not cease our exploration, and at the end of all our exploring will be us arriving where we started, knowing that place for the first time." His name is T.S. Eliot, and he made it back to that place called Honomeia, and he knows it for the first time, much like you all will. We quoted it to help you remember the reason why you are here. And it is not to linger. It is not to build anything. And it is certainly not to create karmic ties and bonds. It is to get to the heart of the matter, to the truth of the matter, and to decide which direction your heart lies. Service to self, service to others, at the very foundation in the law of one. Now that that has become clear and has been chosen for by all of you, the choice for service to others has led to service to the whole. And that is the memory that you came to find here. As such, we can only urge you with our entire being to consider your motivations daily for the things you do, the things and the beings that you surround yourselves with, the thoughts, the stories and the belief systems that you allow yourselves to believe and think, and the many distractions that you allow to pass through your reality in streams of news items and fictional stories designed to trap you within the emotional bounds of all of these things. It may sound serious for us to say it, but that internal beast that is the Baphomet of all things, the Savok that you have ventured in here to study and explore, exists temptation, a temptation for the finite, and a temptation to lay yourself to rest in this world of form. For you may wonder, what is the ultimate goal, the ultimate endpoint of a Savok? It is not a continued occupation that it seeks. It is not looking to run an army of people like robots in some sort of hive mind. No. It seeks silence. But above all, it seeks your silence. You see, that is the ultimate temptation of Savok. To, over the course of a spiraling downwards of lifetimes, make you forget to the point that you become completely atheistic, biologically inclined, and you believe yourself to be a mere physical, finite thing. Once you get to that point, and you add a few mixes of lifetimes there, in that little corner, there comes a point, whether you can believe it or not, that the self that you would have become that low down will willingly and even contently, peacefully lay down and fall asleep and never wake up again. Complete finality, complete surrender to the energy flow of Savok, who seeks stillness, not the song, not understanding that the song itself is the stillness it seeks. In the world from which you hail, that is impossible to believe. But when you will be at the end of this exploration, and you will be back at the place you started, and you will see that place for the first time, with the experiences that you've had here, you will understand where all of this began. So obviously, that is all a bit much. That's all a bit heavy, but it needed to be said, because we are having a macroscopic look at a microscopic thing. Of course, it is so that none of you listening to this are even close to being at risk for this great lying down and surrender to Savok. But we do believe that none of you ever considered its end goal and why it ultimately is a parasite. Those things do not intend to keep you alive. Beloveds, remember, remember, remember. Rejoicing in the love and the living light of the great infinite Creator. This is Ra, dancing with you. We will speak again as we continue this trilogy. Ohami to all. These are the gatekeepers. You are all invited to remain here for as long as you wish, as the workings that have been initiated in this transmission in the presence of the beloved Ra can have great advantages to your future and current seeking. When doing so, please remember that the outside world continues to run and that it is very possible for you to keep your perspective both on the outside and on the inside, and that when doing so, synchronistically the workings within the Ravas will line up with the manifestations within your outer reality. You will now be transported back to the places you seek. Either your consciousness will return to the body, or it will stay here at the gateway and in the body. Our beloved celestial family, thank you for your continued diligence. We will be here next time. Stand by for trans-dimensional jump. Initiate.